And thanks, Lydia, for letting us into the backyard today. Look, it's not an overstatement to say that we've got a housing crisis in Australia. It's harder to buy than ever before. It's harder to rent than ever before. And there are more homeless Aussies today than ever before. House prices have jumped by 25% in the last year nationwide. Here on the Central Coast, it's more than that. It's about 31%, and in some places it's in the 40s. And rent has jumped by about 15%. It's getting harder and harder, not easier. Now, lots of Aussies are still making the plunge. Lots of Aussies are still doing their absolute most to make the great Australian dream a reality. But for more Aussies, it's getting harder and sometimes impossible. Think about this. If you go back almost 40 years to when Bob Hawke was the Prime Minister of Australia, then you'd find that about 60% of young Aussies on low incomes own their own home. Think about that. 40 years ago or so, 60% of Aussies on low incomes own their own home. Today, that's 28%. That's a big change for the worse. It means that our society is cleaving apart between people who own their own home and think they can own their own home and people that think they're going to rent for the rest of their life. I met a person like that here on the Central Coast last year. Her name's Angela, works at a local canteen at a local school. Her husband, Aaron, is a carpenter. They've got 3 kids. They want to buy a house. They're renting at the moment. The sort of house that they want, about 900 grand. Bank won't lend them that much because they don't earn enough. But the bank said they'll give them $500,000 or $600,000. A scheme like this can make all the difference. Lydia told us her story here today. Her and a boyfriend are paying a lot of money in rent here at the moment, over $500. The more money you pay in rent, the less money you've got left over to be able to save a deposit. But when you're on a really modest income and they're earning less than 100 grand all up, when you knock on the door of the bank and you say you want a mortgage for $900,000, you get knocked back because you don't have the income to pay it off. So a scheme like this helps because you get to live in a home that you own with a smaller deposit, a smaller mortgage and smaller mortgage payments. And that's why this has been backed, as Albo said, by everybody from the master builders to the Property Council, to the UDIA, to the HIA, to the Grattan Institute, to ACOS, to CHIA, to National Shelter. It's even been backed by the Liberal Party. The Liberal Party are doing this right now. They've been doing it in WA for years. This is bipartisan in WA. Labor governments and Liberal governments have been doing this and making a difference to people's lives for years. The Gutwein government is doing this in Tasmania. Before Premier Gutwein retired in February, he announced that they're going to do this. And we're adopting a similar model to them, where we're providing 40% equity if you build a new home to create extra incentive to build rather than just buy. And as Albo said, Premier Perrottet's flagged it here. Have a look at the front page of the Sydney Morning Herald on the day of the by-elections back, I think, on the 12th of February. This will be in their budget in June. Even Scott Morrison has backed this. You saw that video that went viral last night where he was calling on the government back in the Rudd days to do this. But not just that. He's been admiring and supporting what the Victorian government's been doing for years here. And now on the eve of an election, he's doing a backflip. Well, Scott Morrison, instead of doing a backflip worthy of Nadia Comaneci, you should be backing hard-working Aussies who want to own their own home. People like Lydia, people like Angela that I talked about before. And that's what we'll do if we win your trust and win your vote at this election.